Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and apparently, according to Josina Anderson, which seems like a pretty trustworthy source, the Chicago Bears are expected to have interest in Commanders' assistant head coach / offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, among others. But it's really notable, especially us being Commanders fans, that maybe they'll take him away from us. And so now, of course, we got to dive into everything, Eric Bieniemy. Should we even miss him? Should we be hoping that they don't? Should we be fighting for Eric Bieniemy's services next year to potentially be a head coach for us? Because I doubt he's going to make not even a lateral move. If he just becomes an offensive coordinator for us next year, that's technically a demotion. He's an assistant head coach this year. So would he be willing to take a demotion to offensive coordinator? Or does this regime even want him as head coach? And if not, is it very likely that he actually ends up going to the Bears? Again, we got to dive into the positives and negatives of what Eric Bieniemy has brought to this team so far. Definitely underwhelming compared to what I expected coming into the season. Now, granted, we're going to dive into it. A lot of things aren't necessarily his fault, but a lot of things are. And he has not been as great as I hoped he'd be. So it's just a matter of, should we miss him? Are we missing out on if Eric Bieniemy leaves us after this one season? We signed him to a 2-year contract. Is there any way that we can get some type of draft compensation if we were to trade him to the Bears? We got to dive into all of that and more. But before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned. Again, I'm not at home right now, so I'm doing whatever I can to try to get as many videos out as I can. I want to get that review video. You know how I do advanced stats and do a breakdown of every player, every coach, every position group, all of that for previous games. So I'm working on that Miami Dolphins one right now. But this was semi kind of breaking news, at the very least interesting news, so I wanted to go and get that out now. So make sure y'all stay tuned because I'm still coming with content, even though I'm clearly not at home right now, but we still working, man. So I appreciate y'all. Again, make sure you leave a like on this video, and without further ado, let's get it.
He's our quarterback for the 5-10 years, and I truly believe that.
All right, so again, the exact tweet from Josina Anderson that I wouldn't say it broke the internet, but caught a lot of eyes, which is why I stopped everything I was doing working on that Miami Dolphins game review video to talk about this. She said, "I'm told the Chicago Bears are expected to have interest in Commanders' assistant coach / offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, among others, with general knowledge that current head coach Matt Eberflus is under evaluation with the team at 4-8. These are 2 4-8 teams. I don't know why a 4-8 team would look at the other 4-8 team. You'd be like, yeah, that offensive coordinator, we need that. That's what we want. We want to continue being 4-8. Again, I'm not blaming Eric Bieniemy for everything, but just even from the outside looking in as a non-Commanders fan, it's just like, what about Eric Bieniemy super? I guess they would just go back to what he achieved with the Chiefs, but at the same time, Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, we're all looking like how much of that was his credit. Now, we're going to dive into it a little bit later when we're talking about his positives and negatives for what he's done here. But he's definitely somewhat of a QB developer because Sam Howell has already gotten to a point further than I expected. He hasn't been perfect. His turnover problem is serious. His sack problem he's improved on, but still holding on to the ball a little bit too much. Still got to work on reading the field a little bit better, going through his progressions and stuff like that. But in a lot of different ways, along with the natural talent that Sam Howell has and some things you just can't teach, I feel like Eric Bieniemy has done a pretty good job at the very least developing him. Now, the offense as a whole, again, we're going to talk about that later. But as far as QB development, I can see it. So maybe the Bears are more so interested in bringing him in, head coach, offensive coordinator, whatever. They want to go with an offensive-minded head coach type of guy. And maybe they're planning on drafting a quarterback and then using him to develop that quarterback. If anything else, like they're going to bring him in as primarily a QB developer. So maybe it's like Caleb Williams, Drake May, whoever it may be. Get him in Eric Bieniemy's hands, let him develop that quarterback, and then the rest will just work itself out, I'm assuming. So maybe make sure you get some good positional group coordinators, like good tight ends coach, good QBs coach, good running backs coach, all of that stuff, and just hoping that the whole system, and maybe a good offensive coordinator, because I'm assuming they will hire Eric Bieniemy as the head coach. So the offensive coordinator that you bring in will be able to help Eric Bieniemy in areas that he's weak at. And again, maybe the thing that the Bears probably covet the most is a QB evaluator. And if that's so, that means that they plan on replacing Justin Fields this offseason. That they are, we're going to draft the guy, and we need somebody here to develop that guy first and foremost. We'll figure out, you know, getting a better play caller or getting a better system for play calling, play design, and all of that type of stuff. And hopefully get Eric Bieniemy a better offensive line. Because you could tell from even just the preseason when we thought he was looking pretty good, that a lot of the plays he wanted to run took more time to develop. We haven't been able to take deep shots, a whole bunch of stuff, because our offensive line just isn't good enough to hold up. And that pretty much just, it's like he had to rip out half of the pages in his playbook because of that. So which is one of the angles where it's not all his fault like a lot of people think it is. A lot of the plays he wants to run, a lot of the things that Sam Howell wants to do requires a better offensive line, which is why a lot of us are screaming go tackle in the first round, maybe even the first 2 rounds. Just go offensive line days 1 and 2, rounds 1 through 3. At this point, it's almost that bad. So, because when you're looking at the roster, I mean, right now, we're looking at offensive line right now. Samuel Cosmi is the only guy where it's like, yeah, you got to keep him. And even then, is he at the wrong position? So our offensive line right now is a whole mess. So you got to alleviate some of the blame from Eric Bieniemy just for that alone. But one thing you do got to notice is that Sam Howell, granted, we're going to dive into a lot of those stats. Why? But Sam Howell is top 3 in passing yards right now. So I think he's number 2 in passing yards thrown as a kind of like a redshirt freshman. So that's the type of thing that even though if you ignore all of the little things in there, like he's also thrown, he has the most turnovers, most interceptions, taking the most sacks and things like that. But on the surface, all you see is he has the most passing yards. Maybe that's something the Bears are just like, yeah, we can fix the rest. As long as he's a guy that can lead the NFL in passing yards, we can figure the rest out later. Maybe they're not thinking about the fact that, yeah, he has the most passing yards, but he also has the most turnovers and things like that because he's just simply passing the ball more. You pass the ball more, you're more liable to throw more turnovers, you're more liable to take more sacks, and you're also more likely to lead the league in passing yards. So I feel like they both come together. I don't think you can just ignore one and only pay attention to the other. I think you need to notice both, take both into account. But hey, man, if the Bears really want him that bad, and honestly, it doesn't seem like this next regime does as bad as what the Bears seem like, I think we're probably just going to start all the way over. We're going to let our new GM, because it's not going to be Martin Mayhew. I've been saying it for a while now. I think a lot of the hate that Ron Rivera receives, a lot of it needs to go on Martin Mayhew as well. Not just ignore Ron Rivera, but we need to probably split that hate in half, the animosity that everybody has towards Ron Rivera. Make sure you take some of that, throw it Martin Mayhew's way. So Martin Mayhew's gone. We're getting a new GM. And from all reports that I've seen from different sources, Josh Harris is willing to let that GM to probably hire his head coach. And then from there, that duo together with Eugene Shin in there as well. Eugene Shin and the GM are going to coincide. They're going to be, I don't exactly know how the power structure is going to work, if Eugene Shin is going to be under the GM or the GM is going to be under Eugene Shin. But I know that whoever Eugene Shin and Josh Harris come together to hire is going to be a guy with the same thinking, the same analytical based mindset, basing most decisions, if not all of them, on statistics and analytics and things like that. So the GM's going to have that same thought process. So Josh Harris, Eugene Shin, and the new GM will probably work together in tandem to get the next head coach, the next defensive coordinator, and potentially the next offensive coordinator. And I'm pretty sure Eric Bieniemy is not a part of that vision. So I went on that whole tangent to basically say that. But what's really interesting, though, is that a lot of people are wondering, you know, can we trade Eric Bieniemy for some picks? I mean, honestly, he is on a 2-year deal. So if he were to leave, we would have to fire him. Or it would be nice if we can trade him. Because I think, honestly, with the hype that he still has built from what he did with the Chiefs, even though a lot of people aren't giving him the credit because of Andy Reid, Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and a lot of other things, Tyreek Hill a couple years. But he showed last year that even with all of those guys, Tyreek Hill gone, they were still an explosive offense and won the Super Bowl. Do you give him some of that credit? We'll see. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are saying that based on what he did with the Chiefs and how he's developed Sam Howell, how he's helped develop Sam Howell. Now, I mean, I just don't know how much credit you want to give him or just Sam Howell himself, just having the you know, certain natural traits coming out of UNC with that type, being that type of guy. But either way, maybe some people are seeing that you can probably get like 2/3 in return for him. And I would, hey, man, an additional 2 third-round picks for somebody that the next regime doesn't even want If we could just magically come up with two extra third-round picks beyond what we already have, that would be magical. But I highly doubt it. But just to let you know, picks have happened. Like, Bill Belichick was traded from the Jets to the Patriots for a first-round pick, a fourth, and a seventh. Like, crazy. Like, super crazy. The Jets had to give up a fifth-round pick and a seventh-round pick in return. It was like a weird exchange, but that's how that worked. You know, Sean Payton went for crazy picks right now. John Gruden went from the Raiders to the Buccaneers for a first-round pick, and two first-round picks and a second-round pick. That's crazy. We would get nowhere near that much for Eric Bieniemy, but that's the thing. Like, trading coaches away for picks is a thing. The problem is, I think I'm seeing in places that a coordinator has to be with their current team for at least 2 years for you to be able to trade them away. And that's not true, which means we would have to hold him until next year and let him be the offensive coordinator, assistant head coach, whatever, this 2024 season coming up, and then trade him into 2025. But then he's only on a 2-year contract. So it's with him signing a 2-year contract, it's basically impossible to trade Eric Bieniemy from what I'm seeing. I'm not sure if that's entirely too true, but I want to throw that out there just to let you know that this may not be a definitive, oh yeah, just go ahead and trade Eric Bieniemy type of thing. That's what I'm seeing. I don't know it to be 100% definitive either way, but just to go ahead and give you a warning, I do believe we are not able to trade Eric Bieniemy right now. So I think it's really interesting. But at the end of the day, trade away Eric Bieniemy, let him walk, fire him, whatever. I just think it's time for a full rebuild. I think, again, Eugene Shin, Josh Harris are going to hire their GM. The GM in that tandem of three people, their three-headed monster right there. Pretty sure Josh Harris is going to probably just let Eugene Shin take over. Eugene Shin and the GM, he's probably going to step back. Just, hey, tell me what check to write, I'll write it type of thing. As long as they're analytically based, which is what I brought Eugene Shin here to be, go ahead. So I don't think Josh Harris is necessarily going to be a part of the hiring process, but Eugene Shin, the next GM, are going to do all of the hiring for everything below that in the power structure. So Eric Bieniemy's probably gone. So I think it's just going to be a clean house. Just let's start over. I mean, we have Jonathan Allen saying that he's thought about getting traded. We have Terry McLaurin trade rumors coming up. He hasn't said it himself, but right now it's okay. We already traded away Chase Young and Montez Sweat. I wouldn't say we're tanking. We're just that bad to where we don't have to. But I highly doubt we win another game this season. We have the 4th overall pick right now. So we're cleaning house. I'm pretty sure a lot of our unrestricted free agents after this season, Kendall Fuller, Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, Cameron Curl, just to name a few, are probably gone. We may even cut people. Charles Leno, you can cut them and get about like $9 million worth of cap space. If you trade away Jonathan Allen, you get a lot of cap space back in return for that as well. You can cut Logan Thomas. There's just so many ways that the next regime could come in. And I mean, I already did a report on it. A lot of potential great GMs and head coaches are probably looking at this Commander situation where we are right now, salivating because for the reasons I've already stated. You can come in and literally clean house. Like, you can immediately leave a mark on this team your first year. Not every GM and head coach is given that setup. So I'm pretty sure we're going to clean house. And just to speak on Eric Bieniemy, of course, the results weren't what we hoped they would be coming into this season. But again, I don't blame him for everything. I think he brought some good things, but he also didn't achieve certain things that we expected. Like, we were expecting the screen game to be fantastic. We have one of the worst screen games in the NFL. Is all of that his fault? No, but that's under his coaching. We've been very turnover heavy. We've been very sack heavy. Of course, you can blame the offensive line. You can blame Sam Howell. You can blame the receivers not getting open. You can blame a lot of stuff everywhere. But Eric Bieniemy also takes a lot of blame for that. And so for him to come over here and basically disappoint compared to what we expected, the expectations that we had laid out for him before the season started, do you want to promote that guy? Not only do you want to keep him, but are you willing to promote that guy? So that's where things get interesting. But at the same time, man, we've seen guys like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell, Mike McDaniels, Matt LaFleur, all of these guys that were all together in the Commanders organization in one way or another. Wide receivers coach, tight end coach, offensive coordinator, offensive assistant, all of that type of stuff have gone to other places and done better things. So it goes to show basically that no matter how smart you are, if the circumstance around you, I mean, if you're dealt a bad hand, it's only but so much you can do with it. So there's that argument for Eric Bieniemy as well. So I feel like we're somewhere in between that to where, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Eric Bieniemy goes somewhere else like the Chicago Bears and has great success just because the situation here was so bad. It was like, what do you expect him to do with it? But at the same time, even trying to isolate him from certain things to take the blame, like, yeah, Sam Howell, that's his fault. Offensive line, that's his fault. Receivers, that's his fault. Whatever. Opponent defenses, that's That's a whole nother thing. Even isolating Eric Bieniemy, it's like you still haven't done as much as I'd hoped, even with all of the bad cards that you were dealt. I would still expect you to do a little bit more than you did. So I'm somewhere in between that, and again, I wouldn't be surprised if Eric Bieniemy goes somewhere else and does exactly what we hoped he'd do. I would not be surprised. A lot of people are so angry at Eric Bieniemy right now that they can't see it. I can see it. I can see him going somewhere else and being dealt a similar situation. Somewhere in between, maybe not. I mean, you're not going to have another Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce, but somewhere in between what he had with the Chiefs, what he has here, somewhere in the middle, and his offense flourishing. I would not be surprised at all. But I mean, at the end of the day, though, it's not about whether you, as the viewer, or I, as in Street Scores, wants him to stay here. It's all about, does Josh Harris and the next regime actually want him or not? And again, I highly doubt they do. Now, it would be nice if we can get something in return, but again, for reasons I've already stated, I don't think we're even allowed to trade him yet. We would have had to have signed him to at least a 3-year deal, and then he would have to have coached here for 2 years, and then we could trade him. That's what it seems like. And now, moving on to his positives and negatives. Again, I've already given you the positive. QB developer, you can give him a lot of credit for that. It's hard to give him all of the credit because because at that point, if you're giving Eric Bieniemy too much credit, that means you're taking credit away from Sam Howell being a guy. And I think Sam Howell has the potential to be a guy. He has a lot of things he needs to work on. Definitely noteworthy. But I feel like Eric Bieniemy does deserve some credit for Sam Howell looking as good as he had. But at the same time, no, man, when you throw the ball as much as you do, of course he is. Like right now, the Commanders are third in drop back percentage, what a PROE, and then ADOT with third. We're somewhere like in the top 10. So right now it just seems like the Eric Bieniemy system is his offenses are just gonna have his quarterback drop back a lot. Like the Chiefs are 2 and we're 3rd right now. So Eric Bieniemy, his influence on the Chiefs is still there, and then of course he has a heavy influence on us. So if he goes to the Bears, if that ends up happening, just expect whoever the quarterback is, Caleb Williams, Drake May, or even if they, for some reason, keep Justin Fields. I think they should keep Justin Fields, but from everything I'm seeing right now, I highly doubt it. So just assuming it won't be Justin Fields, whoever it is going to be dropping back a lot. Under Eric Bieniemy, you're going to be throwing the ball a lot. But at the same time, a lot of the negatives. On top of the fact that you're asking a young quarterback to drop back that many times. Again, Sam Howell, at a certain point, leading the NFL in passing yards is not necessarily a great thing. It sounds great when you hear it, but I mean, there's a reason we're 4-8. It's not a totally great thing. It's cool, but it's not great. It's something that's fun, but it's not something that's important or is a priority. But also, at a certain point in that Dolphins game a couple of days ago, the Dolphins were all averaging 12.5 yards per play. We were averaging 2.4 yards per play at a certain point after like back-to-back 3-and-outs. Like that was our offense compared to theirs. And it's like, I mean, yeah, the Dolphins offense is great, but it's not like their offense stops our offense. It's not like it's offense versus offense. So Eric Bieniemy, even though our defense has been really bad, even after firing Jack Del Rio and all of that, us averaging 2.4 yards per play at any point in the game is not good. Also, a really interesting stat. Washington wide receivers have no receptions for 40 yards or longer. Shouts out to John Kahn for this stat this season. Only team in the league without a catch of 40 yards or more. That's crazy. They had 10 such plays last season. Went all the way back to 1970, and they had a wide receiver every year with at least one such catch. So this is the least explosive Commanders offense since at least 1970. Even less explosive than what we had with Taylor Heineke and Carson Wentz in one game of Sam Howell last year under Scott Turner. That's really bad. Like, I mean, Sam Howell, if anything, seems like the type of quarterback that you would want him to throw deep as much as possible. Like, that literally seems like the thing that he would be best at, and that's just something we're not able to do. Again, I've already stated, the offensive line has a lot to blame for that, but Eric Bieniemy also takes some of that blame as well. I think it's plenty of blame to go along. It's no one particular person we can blame for everything. Eric Bieniemy's a part of it, so you got to evaluate him the way that you can. But again, stuck in between that middle of, you haven't done as much as I hoped, even with the bad cards you were given. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes somewhere else and balls out. Gets the right cards, or at least enough right cards, and just goes crazy with it. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And then us as Commanders fans looking sad at what the Bears are doing, being an explosive offense and things like that. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But Eric Bieniemy's interesting, man. This is his first time really calling plays. And a lot of people look at him as like an innovative, young-minded head coach, but he is 54. So he's not like the youngest guy out there doing it at all, but he does have that innovative pass the ball a lot mindset that we hoped. And Eugene Shin loves that, but I just don't think he's going to want that out of Eric Bieniemy. He's probably going to go look for that out of somebody else, like, you know, preferably for me, Ben Johnson, or the passing game coordinator for the Dolphins. There's so many different options out there that Eugene Shin can find the guy that he wants, and his head coach, his play designer, his play caller. That doesn't have to be Eric Bieniemy. It's not like Eric Bieniemy is the only one that wants to throw the ball out here a lot like Eugene Shin wants to. So I'm pretty sure Eric Bieniemy is probably going to be gone at the end of the season. I guess we'll just have to fire him, let him walk, and not get a trade, get any draft picks in return. But boy, how lovely that would be to get more draft picks from the Bears. We already got their high second. It'd be nice to get some thirds, some fourths, but again, I don't think that's possible. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure y'all stay tuned for all of the content. Again, I'm working. I'm not home right now, but I'm finding time and ways to still get the content out. So if you really rocking with the effort, the time, the energy that's being put into this, make sure y'all you subscribe. Make sure you at the very least like the video on the way out, because that's free. But if you want to support the channel, I'm saving it up for a new stream deck, so when we do live streams I can have more reactions and theatrical stuff like noises, sounds, songs, gifs, all of that stuff, pictures going on. So and man, if you want to support, we still got the Cash App, the PayPal, but now that YouTube is back full blown, you can become a channel member. You can donate through the super chats. I've been seeing y'all do that. Shouts out to everybody that donated through the super chat for my birthday. Shouts out to everybody that donated, because my birthday was November 30th if you missed it. So I really appreciate all y'all, all of the birthday wishes. I've just been super busy, so I haven't been able to thank everybody individually. Try to thank as many people as I could. But yeah, man, shouts out to all y'all. I appreciate the love and support. I'm gonna catch y'all later. More content on the way. I'm out.